Hey, you guys. So, yes, I've changed clothes since doing the radio broadcast this morning. Mondays are amazing. We're going to say that. Um, Starting the day on the radio at 6 a.m. and then running home to get dressed when necessary to handle corporate clients is a work, but I'm having a ball during the radio and consider it a huge honor. And I appreciate all of you that tune in from all over the country. For those of you watching live radio, what is she talking about? So I host a radio show every Monday morning from 6 to 10 a.m. on WGLB Radio. You can tune in from anywhere in the country at WGLBradio.com, or you can, if you're local to Milwaukee, you can tune in at FM 96.1 or AM 1560. And if you use the TuneIn app, it's also there. This is a new endeavor for me. I'm honored to be doing it. And, it's really I just approach it the same way I approached doing live videos. The cool thing is I'm on for 4 hours and I get to play music in between. So I get to take a breath. And so the hope is that it grows and that people begin to sponsor commercials during my airtime, because of course that's the name of the game in radio, and that the Nielsen ratings will continue to go up and Billboard will continue to watch, and we'll see what happens. So it's another stretch, and I'm all about the stretch and about the next evolution of whatever it is that you're doing. But I'm going live, and I am at the office, and I actually thought that I had a class to teach at 1 o'clock, but it's not till 2. So I wasn't prepared to go live because today should have been day 3 of the Power Playbook class, but I didn't bring a Power Playbook with me to the office today because I wasn't planning to teach that. So I am going to talk about something that I have been planning to talk about for a minute, and I just hadn't made the time to do it, which is don't free yourself to death. So one of the most critical questions that I get asked during coaching sessions by startups and even by existing entrepreneurs is, how much should I charge for this? How much would you charge for that? Especially for service providers that consult. And so there's a couple of key rules that I have that I tend to share. First of all, you get to this space, especially when you provide a service like mine, and meaning like if you are, helping someone flesh out their ideas, or you're helping someone with their marketing or their branding, etc. That is my gift, and I am typically always moving in that gift. So even I don't know how to cut it off. It's like a faucet. It's a part of me. It's a part of everything I do. It's a part of how I think. It's a part of how I move. Anyone who's around me all the time is like, yo, are you ever not working? Are you ever not thinking strategically? No, I'm a strategist. And so when I show up, all of me shows up, including that strategy piece of me. And so knowing that, I had to make a decision very early on that I had to charge for it, because in a 30-minute conversation and an hour conversation, I could drop a gem on you that you can run off to the races and make money with. And then, here I am feeling some kind of way. A lot of times when entrepreneurs feel a way about an opportunity is usually because they know they got underpaid. And, when I spent many, 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 many years, couple decades in corporate, it was like, if the client says yes really fast, you probably priced it too low. One of the things that we have to become better about as small business, medium business owners is understanding where we sit in the marketplace. And so that means understanding our competitors' pricing, understanding the price point in the marketplace. And if this is a good one to ask questions, you guys. So let me know who's on. If you got questions, ask me some questions. This is a good, conversation to have versus me just lecturing. And so really understanding, what your competition is pricing a particular thing at. So for example, I worked at AT&T for 18 years. Definitely understood what Verizon, Sprint, other people like that were offering, T-Mobile. Once wireless came onto the scene, I'm so old that I was actually working there before wireless came onto the scene. And but even still, when we were selling big pipes, when everybody was changing over to needing the bandwidth that we now all use and take for granted, with Wi-Fi and when the internet was blowing up, just how much could we sell that for? How much could we sell a contingency center for? What a contingency center is, for example, if this building blew up that I'm in, how would the owners of this building be able to continue to do business? And a lot of, unfortunately, we've, gotten out of the thought process of thinking about that in a small medium business area. But I will tell you this, that larger companies are still thinking about that. And regardless of the size that I am, I still keep that large company mindset, because there's a lot of rules and a lot of things that I learned during my tenure there that I know have and will continue to help me grow and to set myself apart in the marketplace. So most important thing is understanding what your competition is charging, and understanding, like, if you are not going to be the low price player, like, so let's take Walmart and Target, for example. Sam Walton, founder of Walmart, brilliant businessman. Don't know any of his political views. Don't know any, I don't know if he supported Trump, so I don't want nobody coming for me. I just know about the Walmart story. So sometimes I'll mention people and they'll be like, "Oh my God, I can't believe you mentioned that person. They're, a racist, or they're this or they're that." Don't know his history. But do know the business part of it from a Sam's Club and a Walmart. And he came in being the low cost provider of everything. And then when he expanded into Sam's Club, he wanted to be that for small to medium business owners that needed to purchase in bulk, hence the early shopping hours if you own a business, if you have a seller's permit, etc. So it was a really smart niche for him to get into. And so that was the name of his game. The name of his game was to go in to negotiate with his vendors and to negotiate with the individuals that he was purchasing goods for to get the lowest price in the market that he could then pass on to his customers, so he could grow market share and grow brick and mortar locations and grow and grow and grow and grow and grow. I actually remember a time growing up where Walmart was not in Chicago, because it started in the South, in Bentonville, Arkansas. And we would go on like field trips down south, or like there was this little itty bitty tiny bit of time that I thought I could run track, and we would go on track meets or things like that, or choir competitions or debate. Those were more of the things I did in school. And we would see a Walmart and it would be like, "Oh my God, this store with all these cute clothes." Now you'd think we teenagers, like all these cute matching short sets for this cheap, like who has that? Because at the time Target wasn't big either. And so that was a big deal. You had Penny's, Montgomery Ward, Spiegel. You still had the big box stores, Carson Peary Scott, AKA Boston Store if you live in Wisconsin. Remember, I grew up in Chicago, Marshall Fields, etc. So when he came onto the scene, he was offering a store that sold all of this plethora of products at this low price where you could come in and do some one-stop shopping. So brilliant business model. Came in and undercut the competition, came into rural America, came in to compete, honestly, with Meijer, 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 because Meijer was moving back then too, but Meijer definitely was not, and still is not, as cheap as Walmart. That wasn't the name of their game. So if that's the name of your game, I'm going to be the lowest cost provider. Go with that. That's your strategy. That's your strategy. Now, I worked for AT&T. That was never AT&T's strategy. They never wanted to be the lowest priced person or provider in the market. That was not how they were focused on selling their products and services and keeping their client base. That just wasn't what they were doing. What they were focused on was providing better service, innovation, teams, etc. And it was really incumbent upon us as teams that, hey, Tamika, that sold at a high level in the Fortune 100, 200, 300, 400, 500 space in the global market, to become trusted advisors and to become such a valuable part of that corporate team that we were assigned to, that it was like, man, if I got to make a decision on who I'm going to pick, well, I'm going to pick Chantel, even though I might pay a little more, because I have this relationship with Chantel, because she's here and she's invested in my business and she understands what it is we're trying to do. And I trust her. Remember, I always talk about people do business with who they know, like, and trust. And I trust that she's going to deliver on this service. And so Verizon or Sprint may have offered the service cheaper, but they couldn't necessarily offer the same service level agreements, meaning how quickly they were going to respond if something went down, how quickly they were going to get something back up, what type of penalties they were willing to take if something did go extremely wrong. They couldn't offer a me to be sitting on site multiple days a week, to be flying into wherever this particular client was. And then at the time when mobile first hit, AT&T was the only place that you could text and talk at the same time. That was like the huge sale. Like, we're the only mobile provider that you can text and talk at the same time. Now, we know that that is coming on. That's not the case. But that's what it was. And then when the iPhone launched, AT&T was the only provider of the Apple iPhone. And so that is how AT&T leverages. So they don't come in as a low cost provider. They come in as the innovator. They come in as the person who, they used to come in as the one with the most towers. They used to come in as the one who had the most reliable network. Now everybody say they got the most reliable network. I will say I no longer work for AT&T, so I no longer get the discount. So I do have my phones with Verizon now, and Verizon's network is pretty on par with AT&T. I did launch Uverse in the state of Wisconsin for AT&T in the commercial residential space, and I will say that again, another very innovative product for them to come into a marketplace where there was only one cable provider back then, Time Warner, now Spectrum. And so it was a heavy responsibility to come in and try to knock out the incumbent and to convince the client why we should be it. So that's how I start. So start with strategy. Like, what's going to be your strategy? Is your strategy going to be, I'm going for quantity over quality, which is kind of Walmart strategy. So they want to just have a whole bunch of stuff for low prices. And I will say, as time has gone on, Walmart has definitely upped their game on what they provide. But at the end of the day, when I go to their meat section or I go to their deli section, their produce section is pretty good. It's not like I feel like, ooh, but so then you have Target. Who doesn't love Target? Look, I get all excited just talking about it. So Target is really, you go on Target because it doesn't feel all overwhelming like Walmart. Walmart feels overwhelming. There's so much stuff. Walmart has this, no shade on Walmart, man, because if Walmart end up being wanting to be a client, I don't want them to look back on this video and say you hated on us, because I do shop at Walmart for food and toiletries and things like that. However, just the way the shelving is, the way the merchandising is done at Target, the clothing options that are at Target, it just makes it a different shopping experience. You almost feel like you're at a mall and you forget where you are. You forget that you're just in Target. There's a Starbucks in there. There's high-end designers that may do collaboration with Target to, Balmain did one, and a few others that will bring you in, Vera Wang, and bring you in some clothes that you wouldn't normally be able to afford. They do a really good job of doing things similar to what you see on the runways. And so all of that being said, Target has decided, like, we're not going to be the cheapest, but we are going to have good sales, and we are going to kind of hit the mid-range, but we're also going to be this place that, regardless of your socioeconomic background and your class, that you're going to enjoy this experience of walking in Target. I posted a meme today that I thought was so funny that said, why are Target carts so easy to get apart, but Walmart carts, you need like pliers to pull those things apart. And it's even that, they've even invested in a higher quality cart to improve. Everything is about the shopping experience. And so they have chosen quality over quantity. They definitely have the floor space that they could fit more things in, hence the super Targets where you have grocery in there, but they have even decided with that to keep that space limited. And so what do they got to do with you? What does all this have to do with you? You have to decide on what the strategy is for the service and the brand that you provide. Are you quantity over quality, or are you quality over quantity? I will say, when I first started the PowHER Network, I would want to fill a room because, in the beginning, it was about wanting to give the optics that there were all of these people wanting to be at our events. And so here I am filling rooms with 300, 500 women at $20 a ticket. Okay, great. By the time I get rid of my overhead, not making much money. By the time I pay the speaker, do this, do that, do this. But from an optics perspective, it looked really good and the brand grew really fast. And it was a smart go-to-market strategy because it made, people feel like, man, this is really something. But as of lately, like over the last couple of years, I really minimized that and shifted it to a quality over quantity, meaning smaller venues, higher ticket prices, um, more substantive content to make the ticket price worth the value, so that I could do less work, rent less chairs, have better venues, and just a different caliber of audience member than perhaps what I had previously had. Because a lot of times when you do things at such a low price, you get a lot of looky loos, as they would say, meaning like people that are just nosy. But the name of the game with anything you do is repeat door swings. You don't want to just do business with someone one time. Your hope is to have them for the long run. There was a job that I had at AT&T that it was my job. I was a retention specialist. And so it was my job to have large global companies and national companies sign multi-year contracts agreeing that they would only do a specific certain type of business with us. And as a result of doing that, they would get a discount, or they would get some type of accelerated service level agreements or account management team, whatever the incentive was to get them to sign the contract. And so I understand the need and the benefits that come with retention. And so, it's cool to have somebody spend money with you one time, but it's even better to have somebody retain your services over a long period of time. Because you know what happens then, entrepreneur, is then you can budget better because this money's coming in. If you've got a contract for a few years at a time, then you can breathe a little easier than if every month you hustling for $1. So that is another point that I want to make. Other point, like, how do I price myself? Starting back at the beginning, like, how are your competitors pricing themselves in the market? That's something else that we have to be mindful of. So AT&T wasn't the lowest cost provider, but they also weren't so overpriced as it relates to the competition that they price themselves out of the market. Because there is a place that you can get to that it doesn't matter how great you are. You think about Android versus Apple users, and the S whatever. I just saw a commercial, I think, for S22 or something, and I've got an iPhone 12 Pro Max because I do virtual classes and things like that. So I just wanted the best camera possible. The cost of the phones are pretty much on par, because at the end of the day, it don't matter what this 12 Pro Max can do if it's that much more. I will say, caveat to that, I'm talking to you on my MacBook. We are a Mac home, but the reason that I chose to be a Mac home is because of the money we were spending on cleaning viruses off of PCs. And so when my oldest son went away to college, I was like, decided we're transitioning everything to Mac. And it's not to say that Macs don't get viruses, but because less people have Macs, less people are out here writing malware for viruses to go on a Mac. And so, I've honestly never, let me knock on something, had a Mac end up with the virus. Jesus, please don't let it happen. Y'all go see me crying. But yeah, so it's just one of those things. The other piece of it is, I always tell clients to think about how much is your value worth in the market. What that means is, and this is not for you to share with customers or clients, and I've said this before, but what is your minimum hourly rate? So think about when you're out in the marketplace and you're applying for jobs. There's just certain jobs you want. Like, I'm not applying for a job at McDonald's. That's not going to be enough money to sustain my lifestyle. But for someone else, it might be good money. And I wouldn't care if I was the highest paid person in the joint. It's still not going to be enough money to sustain my lifestyle with my 4 kids and the way we like to do things. And I've got too much education and I've got too much experience and to settle for that. Now, don't get it twisted. If y'all had to see me doing fries at McDonald's and that's all I could do, I'm do what I gotta do to feed my babies. But at the end of the day, I think that I've made some strategic moves that would not be necessary. So that being said, I have to decide, like, what is an hour worth of my time worth? And then, because we tend to underprice ourselves when we first come into business, what is my colleague charging for that in this market? And then what are my colleagues charging for that outside of this market? And hopefully you can find yourself somewhere in the median. Because, so I live in the city of Milwaukee. It's a pretty small town, comparatively speaking, in the Midwest. Well, I have colleagues who work in Atlanta and who work in Los Angeles and who work in Dallas and who work in Chicago. And their hourly rate, I know, is more than mine in a lot of cases. But again, it's about not wanting to price myself out of this market. Now, I also know that my rate is not low for this market. I'll use my friend Julian as an example. Hopefully she doesn't mind. So she owns Adjua Beauty, and they are in Sephora, and she's a Black woman. And she might be the only Black woman with a hair care line in Sephora. And I'll never forget, I flew her in to speak at our leadership summit, and she talked about all of the offers that she had to put her product on different shelves. And so she said she turned down Walmart, she turned down Target, she turned down Penny's. And the reason she did all of that is because she would have been the high priced hair care product. So, her $15, $18, $22 shampoo would have been sitting next to some $3.99 Cantu. How can you compete when you're not there to sell it? You're not there to explain the benefits of it. And so she held out for Sephora. Well, based on Sephora's price points, she's a mid-range hair care provider in that space. And so that is strategic thinking. Like, that is looking at the market as a whole and figuring out where you fit and where you want to fit and not settling. Last piece of advice that I'll give is, so know your hourly rate. Don't miss that. What I said is not to be shared. Usually when I give it to a client, I do the math of how many hours that I believe it's going to take me to get a particular project done, or how many hours I believe that I'm going to get a client this in a particular month. And if they keep adding stuff, that's where you do change orders. That's where it's like the scope of work of what we originally agreed to has changed. And so it's going to take more hours. And so this is what your new price is. And either they can take it or leave it. And, most people know when they are inching towards something being more than they agreed, if you're doing actual business, and are fine and are used to seeing changes like that. But what saddens me is I see a lot of entrepreneurs take on the additional work without going back and renegotiating their contract. And that's where you make a mistake. If they had a contract at all, please do not do business without contracts. Okay. So that piece of it. So what is it? And then at the end of the day, if I can't afford to hire me, because I know what I'm worth in the marketplace, if I get picked up by a corporation that can pay me what I'm worth, because some people try to lowball you. And I'm talking about including my benefits, my health insurance, my this, my that, my that. So all of that is, when they give you your total compensation package, they include all of those things. So you need to be looking at it as a total compensation package. So I know how much my total compensation package is worth. And it's easy for me to do the math to break that down into hours. And so at the point that I can't afford to pay me what the market can pay me, then why am I working for me? And, that's just my litmus test for me. I'm not saying that's for everybody. Some people, and I did it at first. I definitely took a pay cut and made some sacrifices when I was first starting the business, under the belief that I would get to a place that I would make more money than I made in the corporate space. And thankfully, God, it blessed me that became so. However, you can't stay there. You can't stay there. Like, I made a decision that if it was ever to the detriment of my family, my dream, that just wasn't something I was going to do. And I will tell you guys, it was scary. It probably wasn't until about, I don't even know if it's been a year, that when things got a little thin, that I wasn't like, maybe I should be applying for a job. And now I've just finally gotten to this place that it's like, you know what? Clients come and go. But guess what? They're like buses. As soon as one go, another one comes. And I have earned the right to compete in this market. I have earned the work that I get. I do well at it. And being a woman of faith also, I can say, God provides, with my hard work and my faith in him, things work out. And so last piece I'll share is when you first start coming into doing your business as a business and people are used to you giving it away for free. So I get asked this question all the time. Well, what if somebody calls you under the auspice of let's have coffee or let's do this, and there's somebody really well, so you would normally do that with, and then you realize that they want to talk business? Well, I have really good boundaries as it relates to that. And so I will immediately shift the conversation to, oh, it sounds like you want to have a strategy session. This is the price for that. So we can continue having our personal conversation, but this is the price to do business with me. And I didn't come here to do business. So I don't do the bait and switch thing, because at the end of the day, for everything I say yes to, I say no to something else. So I'm sitting here and of course there's exceptions to the rule. I mean, my mama can call me, people, things like that. But to be straight up, like if my mom calls me with a business proposition, it's with the business proposition. And vice versa. And so pay your people, pay your family, pay your friends, like pay your people. And even my friends, when they call me saying, I want to contract you. I want to get a power hour. I want to do this. I want to do that. And so I very much appreciate that they value my knowledge in the marketplace and they value my business, because at the end of the day, this is how I feed my family. It's not my life, but it's my livelihood. And so respect my job in the same way that I respect your job. And so, but here's the thing, you teach people how to treat you. And so if you do not treat your business like a business, neither will anyone else. If you treat it like a hobby, if you treat it like you just playing with it, if you treat it like you feel uncomfortable, I talk to so many people, I just feel uncomfortable asking for money. I just feel uncomfortable giving a contract. I just feel uncomfortable talking about pricing. Well, then you're not ready to be a business owner, because at the end of the day, if it don't make dollars, it don't make sense. And so that's really, 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 truly the name of the game. So I just want to encourage you not to freak yourself to death. Don't walk around making everyone else tons of money, giving everyone else tons of notoriety, doing all of these things. And privately, you're suffering because you're giving it all away. And I hear so many people saying they stole it, they stole it, they stole it. It's not stealing if you gave it away, babe. It's really not. All they did was take advantage of what you were offering for free 99. And that's your fault for offering it for free 99. Now, there's certain things that are conversion tools. I've been teaching a lot of classes on how to convert followers, small things, lead pages, things like that, into larger contracts. So there's certain things that you do to give people a taste of what you do. So then hopefully you can land them at a higher price or for a longer engagement, etc. Now, again, that is strategy. You have to know how many of those you can do. You have to know at what point do you hit your lid with those and go from there. However, if it's not a strategic move, if you're just doing it to be doing it, then I don't know why it makes any sense. And that's why strategy is so important. I'm about to teach a class on vision mapping to a corporate client. It's a class that I taught this past Saturday on behalf of the Power Network, and I got contracted to do it for a corporate client. And that's the other thing I will tell you too. Like, if you are really, really, really good at what you do, people will make notice. I think about Anthony Davis. For those of you who don't know, he's an NBA player. He plays with LeBron James. He was like LeBron's number 2 when they just won the championship. And he grew up in Chicago, and he went to this small private charter school. And he really wanted to make it to the league. He knew he had what it took. And so he went to one of the best high schools in Chicago, known for pushing out star athletes, and talked to that coach and said, hey, I want to play here. And the coach saw he was a good kid and saw that the education that he would get at this particular school perhaps wouldn't be on par with what he was getting. The environment he would be in could have did more harm than good. And he said to Antoine Davis, if you're that good, they'll find you. And sure enough, he was that good. And he ended up in the McDonald's All-American game, and he ended up winning a championship ring last year. And so just know, like, be that good. Be that good. Be that consistent. Be that professional. Be that dependable. And you won't have to worry about where your next client is coming from, because they will come looking for you. All right, you guys, I'm going to get ready to teach my class. I hope you have had a wonderful, wonderful Monday. Peace, love, power. I'm out.